Okie dokie. Hello. Thank you so much for tuning in to Supernova Bodies episode. Today we are talking about Akashic Records, the astral plane, and what is it, what it looks like, and how far back does it go. So, in the previous episode, I have talked about the ether and what it is and what it looks like for me. So we all have these places within our mind that we go when certain words are said. So if I say black, what do you see? What's the first thing that comes to your mind? Do you think that it's going to be the same for everyone? Probably not. But when it comes to the astral plane, there have been some studies done that prove that what they're seeing is relative between people. So some of the places that we think we're just making with our minds are actual dimensions that we have the ability to go to. So what does that have to do with the Akashic Records? Everything. So it is thought that everything that we do or will do, everything that we think, we speak, we desire, is written down and recorded. And if we want to understand something about ourselves, we have the ability to go so deep that we can see what we thought or felt 10,000 years ago. We can also see what we will think and will feel 10,000 years in the future. And so how does that help? How does that benefit? What does that do for us? Why would we want to have access to that? Doesn't it sound like time travel? Yes, all of that is relative. And all of that is dependent upon you and what you plan to use it for. Some people use it for manifestation. Some people use it for healing. And so for me in my life, in my profession, and what I strive to do and my purpose here in this time frame, I use it for healing, for direction and guidance and answers to questions that I can't seem to solve. How do you get there? So we all have our landing pad in space. That's what I call it because that's literally what it looks like for me. When I am in a meditative state and I am going into my safe space to enter into whatever place I need to be in, it is literally like a landing pad. And then I go into this area where I can sit down and talk with whoever I need to talk to. It is my safe place that is protected, where I can speak to my spirit guides. I speak to my parents' higher self. I speak to whoever I need to speak to at that time. And in the same way that I travel to my astral plane and engage and encounter other beings, I can go into I call my throne room, where my Akashic Records or my book of life is laying. Many people from a Christian background will recall hearing over and over and over that things will be recorded in the book of life. That every good deed, every bad deed, everything is recorded in the book of life. And then you're going to be tried. And all of these things are going to be taken into consideration when your entrance into heaven is considered. And so you're taught that. So you're thinking at all times, God is watching. You better act right. He's going to get you. And you live your life trying to be more cautious of the things that you say and do. And then you get to a certain age where you no longer care. And it's just kind of like, well, forgive me because I said it and I thought it and I did it. So what you going to do now? And then you get to a point where you just lose that connection to the book of life. And oftentimes a lot of the things that we are taught in Christianity or other religions, we lose the understanding of their importance. So what are you talking about? Okay, so in the previous episode I explained a little bit about Mott. I hope that you did some research to fully understand the weighing of hearts in Egyptian culture and how it would be weighed against that of a feather. Imagine that our hearts are essentially our book of life, and they are being weighed. So all of our actions, our deeds, everything is going to determine what happens next for us. In Bhagavad Gita, what would happen next for us would be our karmic expression. So if we were good people, then we would lead a better life. If we were not so great, we would lead a life that taught us how to be better. Essentially, most religions kind of teach the same. Essentially, how you choose to lead your life day to day, what you say, what you think, what you speak is all relative to your future experience. And so the Akashic Record teaches us how to manifest accordingly by the things that we say, being mindful of our words, being mindful of our actions and how they perpetuate the life that we want to eventually lead. So if we want to have a good life or a good expression or a positive, whether it's good or bad is relative, but if we want to have a more enjoyable existence, then we start that by today. Like for weight loss, if you want to see results, you've got to keep doing the work every day to get those results, right? You're not just going to start today and then see the results today, but you may see the results next week. And if you continue to do good for your body, then the results will keep improving every week, right? But let's say 1 week you stop. You may not see the results of that immediately, but that next week you will. So it's that in the same way, that's how our ability to manifest and bring to us what we desire happens. So by having a constant reminder of this is what you said on January 4th back then when you was tripping, and this is what the manifestation of that is now in your today. And in doing that, we have the ability to correct. I think that is the ultimate purpose that I want to drive home in every single episode, is that we have the ability to correct. We have the ability to change, to alter, to improve. If things don't feel good to you, if things don't look good to you, if they're not aligning with your intuitively known purpose, then get on track. We have the ability to align our energy every day, every moment. So if things are off, we don't have to stay off. If things are not balanced, we don't have to stay unbalanced. We have the ability to improve, correct, change, alter. And so by going into your Akashic Records or your throne room and reviewing or asking, you can change the dynamic or the direction of a situation. Okay, so an example, I was talking about entering my throne room. I get to my astral plane. One of those doors, because I'm in a room of doors, leads me to where I go to talk to my highest good encounters. It could be family, friends, ancestral situations, whatever the case may be. Another door is a pathway to my regressions. It could be current life, it could be ancestral, but as soon as I go to that door, then I'm transported to wherever I'm going and whatever place, time, or experience I need to experience in that moment to get the answers from my highest good. And then there's another door, and in that door leads me to my throne room where my Akashic Records are. And it looks almost like a golden representation of Atlantis, but mixed with Greece, or where the Mount Olympus, where the gods reside. And there is this massive book. And as I ask questions, the page is open and the book flips to that page with the answer. Or versus it being just a word or it being a symbol, it could sometimes just be a sensation or a feeling. My first experience with the Akashic Records and going into my own throne room and reviewing my own book of life was one of overwhelming emotion. One that I will never forget because of what was shown to me there. So I was shown a word, and that word was what I was supposed to be focusing on, and it was something I was just like, oh, okay. Okay, I guess that makes sense. And then I saw an image, and it was an image that might seem just like nothing, but it was a conch, which is like a seashell, a massive one that my grandmother used to have at her home. And I just, it was golden, and it was pink, and it was pearly, and it was so beautiful, but I just remember the colors of it. And I had just lost my dad. And I don't think my grandmother had passed yet, or she had just passed. But it was, I was doing grief counseling, and I needed that understanding, because what the conch represents is the life cycle and its eternal flow. So when we see a seashell and it's all beautiful, and we're just like, wow, man, that's so great, and we want to preserve it in that state. Let's say it gets broken, and then you now have pieces of a seashell. What happens after time, after erosion? Those seashells become sand. And what happens to that sand? Sometimes it can become a pearl, and then that has its own life cycle. Like, there are so many cyclical events that happen within the life cycle of that shell. So it could be a conch, and it could be a seashell, and then it could eventually become a seashell again. That is the flow of life, and the process of grief is holding on to our understanding, or our limited understanding of the life cycle, and how it may have been very useful in its beautiful form. Its beautiful form is a just golden pearl conch, but it still can be beautiful in other forms as well. When you look out at beautiful, clear, debris-free sand, how does that make you feel? It makes you feel good. It makes you feel like, wow, when you put your feet in it, and some people may be like, ew, gross, I can't stand it. But as for me, in my business, I enjoy touching the sand with my feet and watching the water, and I love looking at pearls. So for me, it's great. You know, the new process or flow of the life cycle is just as great, but different as the one with the conch. So I had to learn that just because I no longer had the physical expression of my father, or the physical expression of my grandmother, either, because it was actually not the grandmother that passed away, but one that had passed before. So she did pass away, but before the last one passed. So I had to look at my ability to still connect, because we still have the ability to connect with our loved ones, whether you want to see it in the way I see it or not. You can feel it when you just feel like, wow, I feel like such and such is here. Wow, I smell my grandfather. That's weird. Or, you know, there's different ways that our loved ones have the ability to share with us that they are in fact present, and that they are in fact still around, you know. And so my understanding is that they're in the stars, that they're in the ether, and that is where all of the energy returns to and comes from. But that's my understanding, and I'm just sharing it with you. And you can definitely share your perspectives and your opinions and your thoughts and your disagreements and your agreements with me, so that I can continue to improve my understanding of what seems innate to me. But yes, so the life cycle of the conch was very helpful in my flow of grief, and I was able to use it in my grief sessions that I was facilitating at the time, to help people get to a place of acceptance of the flow of life, that there is more, and that just because this person was no longer there physically, their absence was definitely a teaching tool to help us understand and see life in a different way. So oftentimes when we lose someone that seemed very pure or young, or just amazing, you look at their life as just like, man, what the heck? But you can take the lessons that you learned from their existence here on earth and apply them to your life every day. So you thought that they were amazing? Become amazing. You thought that they did things in a way that was virtuous? Live a virtuous life. Like, don't let their existence here on earth be in vain. Gain what you can, apply what you can, and move forward. Move forward in life and allow the breath of life to flow. Allow life to flow through and go and move forward, because it's necessary. It's vital that we not get stuck in the current cycle of life and realize that there's before and there's going to be after. There's going to be a constant cycle. It's not going to just stop. Some of you may have just had one. This may be your first experience on earth. You may be a new soul, and this may not resonate with you because this is your first experience, and it's just like, well, this one's hard enough, and I don't know if I'm going to do this cycle again. But for most of us that have had multiple life cycles, it's good that you don't get stuck. And I think that's what life teaches us, is to accept the flow of life and continue to move forward. So, yeah, our astral plane is a place where I describe as where the landing pad is, and it's like kind of like a spaceship dock. So that is where you can go to have experiences or encounters. I use my astral plane to travel basically through time. So it's like a time traveling platform. And there are certain places where it is known that energetically you lose all trace, track, or understanding of time. So they're like the Stonehenge. The energy frequency within the circle is extremely different than on the outer elements of it. There are many different locations within the world that have different energetic frequencies, and when you are in or around them, life alters. So I'll explain more on that when I go in depth on sound therapy and vibrations and energy and why we remain in balance, or how we remain in balance, and what exterior things can affect our ability to balance. And we'll talk about that another episode. But for this particular stance and understanding, time travel is relative if you believe it. But while I'm doing regressions for self-purpose or regressions for other people, we are traveling through time mentally. So it could be a current life situation where they just go back to being 5 years old. But the situation or the scene is one that you're literally watching happen. So one of my first current life regressions was to a scene in my childhood home, and I'm watching what's happening, and it to me just seemed like an incident that I don't even remember, nor do I feel like should have been as important as it was, but it was extremely important for the healing that I was doing at that time. But I traveled back in time mentally to a place that I had long forgotten. And so when you think of going back in place and then you have an understanding of something that was long forgotten, it's how did that happen? An example, I never really did research on Cleopatra. 1, because I didn't like how she was portrayed in the media. 2, because there were other Egyptian gods and goddesses and rulers that I thought were way doper. So I didn't have much reference for her. Same with some other people, but for this particular example, I'm going to use her. So I was her in a previous life, as were many people. Again, I say in every explanation that we are extensions of the same tree. So we may have shared this experience and then broken off and had a different life experience, and continue to grow, because the goal is that we become our own trees. So we continue to grasp and create these experiences, and all of that changes us and molds us into unique beings. But many of us come from like the same things. Like if you look at like all the Libras, I believe they all came from Mott, and that's why they continue to have a Libra expression with their existence. That's just my little feelings about it. But it's the way that my brain can comprehend and understand that this woman says she's Cleopatra, but I resonate and had this past life regression that I can't explain because I was never there and don't know this information. So I never knew that Cleopatra supposedly chose to end her life using serpents. So in my regression, I was looking in a mirror and they were dressing me. And I was just like, oh, okay, because I knew that I was a medicine woman or medic or a doctor in ancient times before my lifetime as Cleopatra. But I didn't think that I was ever like royalty, because I just felt like, everyone, feels that way. But the resignation that I had with this, it was sometimes your ego gets in the way and it doesn't want to accept what you're seeing. But it will show you if you're visual, because some people may hear or they may feel or they may smell or they may sense. Their other auditory signals may pick up, and it may not be like a movie for me, or for you like it is for me. But I saw myself and I was in the mirror, and they put a headdress on that kind of looks like my hair now, and it was gold and it was pretty, and I was just like, this is different. I didn't know medics wore this. This is nice. I know that I'm a holistic practitioner in many times, but this is cool. Wow, they really treat them nice. And then I understood that I was in fact a ruler. And then I understood that I was in a time where I was at an amazing amount of peace, and there were animals around me, and there was a tiger, and I just remember being in this beautiful oasis, and I was relaxed, and I was connected with these two snakes, and it was the most peaceful feeling. I felt no fear. I felt just utter peace. And then the next thing I knew, they bit me, and it was it. That was it. That was done. And I was just like, wow, that is so weird. And so I did a deep dive. To understand what had just happened. I didn't know who that could have been. I didn't know what that could have been. And then as I did more research, I understood, oh, okay, so this person did that. Oh, okay, this is their headdress. Oh, wow, like, I didn't know these things, which is weird. But what's not weird is that I had an aversion to it. It wasn't that, it was just like a normal, I'm extremely curious. I have to know about everything, but I never wanted to know about that. I never wanted to go back and touch on that or understand her or anything, which is why I loved learning about Nefertiti. I had zero problem learning about her at all, but she's not me. I didn't live as her, or at least that has never been revealed to me. But Cleopatra for sure. So I learned that, and I understood her life, and I understood the karmic cycles that were evident in her experience that were manifesting again in mine. So it was time travel for me. It wasn't as me being not present. It was very much so a real experience. And then in that, I corrected what I could, and I let go of what I didn't need to do. But it was a form of time travel. And I think if we look at things more so in the spiritual way, we can understand how these things can happen. and how we can eventually like take our bodies with us or have different kind of manifestations or experiences. Everything that happens isn't so black and white. It isn't so taboo, it isn't so crazy after all. And that's why time travel is something that I think every massive civilization eventually mastered and begin to utilize to correct or to make worse. So I think that with every good intention comes a bad idea that can lead to, negative things. So, of course, having the ability to access your Akashic records can lead to bad decisions, to do bad things, or things that will not be for your highest good, that will have context, that will have negative reactions later. So an example would be trying to avoid trauma. Ha ha ha, that's a good one. And instead of just allowing life to go, your main point is using your Akashic records, your future and your past, to manifest situations that result in you never experiencing trauma. That means that you stay stagnant, you're not growing, and you're not doing what you came here to do. You're doing what you want to do only, and that's not for your highest good. Even though it seems like it, and it may feel like it, it's not. In my opinion, again, these are all my opinions. All of my thoughts, feelings, and ideas. So, why would you use it? Why would you want to have the ability to do this? So, in the Christian faith, if you have the ability to speak into someone or see something in someone or see their future or be a basic walking radio, you're called prophetic. In many different spiritual understandings, if you have the ability to communicate with God and deliver messages on behalf of others, you are looked at as prophetic. My name literally means conversations with God. My first name is Simone and my middle name is Michelle. So my first name is God heard, and my second name is Messenger of God. So that means that God hears me and I hear him. So we have a conversation. We have this dialogue, right? And so many people growing up would tell me, wow, that's such a great gift. And I didn't agree. I didn't agree because I felt like hearing God tell you no, and knowing that if you didn't do what he said, you would have grave consequences was annoying. I would want to do something and he would very audibly tell me no, and I just didn't want to hear it. And I didn't like it because I wanted the sense of having free will. And I never really felt like I had free will because I already understood the negative consequences that would come. Some people are like, girl, you crazy. If I could know, what was going to happen tomorrow, I would da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. No. That's not necessarily the case. You can't really say what you would do with something until you do it. So having the ability to access your Akashic records is like having the ability to constantly check in and ask God or universe, your spirit guides, Jesus, Allah, Elohim, what do I do? And they audibly respond A, B, and C, right? And then what happens if you begin to use that to manipulate or control other people, which is easily seen in many scriptures of people that had the ability to be seers, prophets, and used it for bad. What does that result in? Usually demise. Usually it results in a bad outcome, and bad and good is definitely relative. However, it's usually catastrophic. It's just I don't see the good there. I mean, I'm sure it served a purpose, but it was unnecessary. So, for sure, you know, with everything, you have to be in tune, or, results may vary. And the time it takes for you to get from point A to point B will change. Even though time is relative, I don't know about y'all, but I really don't like wasting time. Whether it is relative or not. I don't want to waste it. I want to make sure that I'm being as efficient with this space that I am being as possible. So, yep. All right, so energetic points. There are many energetic points that allow people to amplify their energy to either travel in a higher capacity or go to different dimensions, realms, galaxies. Like the power of energy is amplified through stones. Native Americans believe that they are living stones, that the energy within them was constantly fluid and moving. It was not stagnant. It was not dead. It was not it was still going. So again, that seashell, that conch, like that life cycle is still going. It didn't stop. It didn't just harden and calcify. It kept going, and it still is living, breathing. And that's evident in the uses of crystals, like so this is a selenite, and it is a wand that people use to clear or correct energy and bring peace. And this, when there are different devices that you can use to monitor the energy of something, when you hold it or operate it or have it near something, it can alter the state of things around it. So having something like that is an example that it is quite possible that these living stones, when put in certain environments, can amplify or change the energy around it or within something. So if you have these energetic points on the earth, if you have these energetic points within your home, if you have these vibrant frequencies, these vibrations, then you have the ability to alter the human body, which will result in different outcomes, right? And that is essentially the manipulation of time, the manipulation of energy and outcome. So that could look like a good example of it would be Edgar Allan Poe. I believe he writes a lot of futuristic things. And in reading his stuff, people would be like, what? How the heck did he know about that? That's crazy. But if you're using your Akashic records, I'm sorry, guys, hold on, I lit. Oh, okay. If you're using your Akashic records, you have the ability to tap into the astral plane. You have the ability to go back in time or go into the future. Then you have the ability to understand this knowledge. And that's ultimately the purpose, is for understanding knowledge that you can use to manipulate things in your favor. And with manipulation comes with a force of will. And with a force of will comes outcomes. And I'm not going to assign a label of good or bad, but the outcomes definitely change. So why do I use the Akashic records? To go back. I don't use them to go forward. I don't use them to understand or manifest, because I have a direct connection with my God that allows me to hear and be heard. So it's not anything that I need to use in the way of future dealings or traveling forward. But I do use it to go back to correct or fix or heal. That is the purpose for me. And I believe that you should look more into it for yourself and possibly enter your own throne room or create your own mental space where you're safe, where you can travel astrally and encounter other beings and experiences. I had an experience that still bothers me today where I encountered someone and I don't know who they are in real life. And so it's a place that I have struggled to go back to where I encountered them, because it's like I just wish I could meet you in real life. I would be so happy. Where are you? So I don't go there anymore. But it is something to consider, something to definitely dive into and have a better understanding of for yourself, versus just listening to my understanding of it. And please feel free to share your experience. Have you ever astral traveled? Have you ever had an outer body experience? Or is this all new to you? I want to know. I want to understand your perspectives. I want you to give me feedback on what you think. And I hope, as always, that you have an amazing, light-filled day of peace and love. Thank you. Bye. Okay.